Hello and welcome to a brand new Arseblog, Arsecast, right here on arseblog.com. How are you? Hope you're well. Thank you very much indeed, as always, for being here. Welcome to a brand new season.
Oh, shit. Here we go again.
Doesn't really feel like there's been much of a break, obviously, with Euro 2024, with the Copa America, with the US Tour. But this is the way of football these days. It's not a case anymore where you had that break, nobody really paid too much attention to what was going on. You'd look at CFAX maybe, see if there's a little bit of rumours. The players would go away on their holidays. They'd come back and immediately start trying to burn off those extra pounds, kilos these days, of course. But back then, pounds. You know, from all the summer eating and drinking. It's not like that anymore. We're right into the thick of it again. And it kicks off again on Saturday, starting with Wolves at home. And we'll be with you all the way through until the denouement in May, whatever that might be. Hopefully, this time around, we'll be able to go one better than the last couple of seasons and lift that Premier League trophy. Fingers crossed. Wouldn't that be an amazing thing to celebrate and enjoy, not just for ourselves, but obviously at the expense of everybody else, not least Manchester City. Anyway, today's show, rather than just one guest to talk about the new season, I thought I'd talk to a number of people to get different perspectives on different things, whilst also looking ahead to the season in general. So, in a little while, we'll be talking to former gunner Adrian Clarke. We'll also be talking to comedian Dara and features writer for Sky Sports, Nick Wright. But who better to start a new season with than the one and only Amy Lawrence. Hi, Amy.
Hiya, Andrew.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right. How has your summer been? Has it felt like you've had any kind of break from football at all, or?
Good question. I definitely had this quite strong feeling when watching quite a lot of the Euros, and I wasn't there, so this was just kind of remotely through TV. Of just thinking, I miss Arsenal. I can't wait for the real stuff. You know? So yeah, it has come up quick. It was a bit weird, to suddenly be back at the Emirates for the Emirates Cup, and both those games were absolutely packed sellouts. So I was quite intrigued by that. They were really, really, you couldn't get a ticket. Normally It's not so difficult, but it almost felt like the main part of the season where people were asking around and scrabbling around, and there's a lot of people that want to watch this football team. And I noticed that I was just I was down near the ground about 4 or 5 hours ahead of kickoff from the Leverkusen game, and there was tons of people about, like tons. And I don't know, just the buzz it feels a bit unstoppable really at the moment.
That is a consequence of what this team has done over the last couple of seasons, isn't it? And, when you look at the team, and I think there's a discussion maybe to be had about, like, what do we need, or what else does this team need to make that step further? But you have to sort of sometimes step back and look at it objectively, that what they did last season was brilliant. In any other context, it's an amazing season, apart from obviously not having that couple of points that we needed to become champions. So, this is a team that is well established now, isn't it? It's the foundations are there, I think, for us to go on and do a lot with the players we have. And obviously people want transfers, and we might talk about that in a moment. But I think you do have to remember that what those guys did last season was kind of extraordinary.
I couldn't agree more. And, only a few minutes before joining you, I was contributing to a piece on The Athletic with all the other writers, sort of Q&A kind of preseason roundtable. And of course, the last question is, will Arsenal win the league? And my heart always sinks with those sort of questions, quite apart from the fact that obviously, those sort of will rather than can questions are just so idiotic because nobody has a crystal ball. But I feel quite strongly that some people seem to feel that a team needs to win trophies to justify its status, or a player needs to win trophies to justify their own status as a great. And I feel really strongly that what I saw from that team last year was a degree of excellence that doesn't come around very often. And I don't need a trophy. I'd love one, don't get me wrong. Everybody would, and you desire and crave that feeling of actually hoisting the silverware and living those moments of celebration that when they come around are the things that you remember forever. But I don't feel any less strongly about the quality and values, and I don't have any less affection for this team in some ways and their efforts and the staff, because I admire so much the levels that they've attained already. And I just think we're living in this weird, 115 universe, for want of a different expression. I always remember how Arsene Wenger used to, there was something kind of like haunted almost about his Monaco time.
Yeah.
When, he knows that he and his team should have had a whole bunch more trophies. But Marseille at that era, under Bernard Tapie, were cheating and were later caught and punished. But those punishments in retrospect don't really help you when you never got what you deserved. I've gone a bit off topic, but I think fundamentally all support and all love is merited for this team. And I hope they get there. But if they don't, I'm not going to value them any the less.
Absolutely. I think you can look at things in absolutes and say, well, if they don't win a trophy, it's a failure. Some people will look at it like that. But you can't win however many games we won last season and consider that a failure, and score as many goals as we did and defend as well as we did and play as well as we did and go on that kind of extraordinary run in the second half of the season, that really does speak to the quality. And people might think, well, you're making an excuse about Manchester City, but that is simply the reality in which we live, that they are dominant for all kinds of reasons. There might be 115 reasons, there might be 117 reasons. One of which, is Pep Guardiola is an amazing coach and he's got some of the best players in the world at his disposal. Exactly. So we can't ignore that too, right? But
for sure.
I wonder, if I were to ask you what might be the biggest challenge this season for Arsenal, would it be to maintain that level of consistency? Would it be the ability to sort of pick yourself up and go again? Because for us as fans, and I'm sure for the players and for the staff and the manager, the coming so close must have been devastating. Like I think could look at what they did and say, look, we've been brilliant and we got more points than we've done in such a long time. But at the same time, to come that close and not win it must be heartbreaking. And sport isn't always a case that, right, okay, I'll be stronger next time around. Sometimes
exactly. What more do you want from these players? What more do you expect them to give? And I think you're right. I really remember feeling struck by how shell-shocked, devastated, just beaten up some of those players looked, when the final whistle went of the last game of the season.
Kai Havertz, for example, I remember.
Odegaard as well. They've just, which speaks to a sense that somehow they believed something impossible was going to happen on, on that last day, which I admire. And I think Mikel Arteta had done a lot to fuel that sense. You're in that bubble, and I think he wanted them to absolutely believe, listen guys, there's a miracle that might happen here. And it's important, if you're a professional player, that you do believe in those things. But it was obvious how much they felt it might happen that it crushed them so badly. And I think when you look in the mirror and you think, okay, I could have done that a bit better, I should have done that a bit better, what if I'd have made that pass? What if I'd have been able to score that goal or block that shot or whatever it is? Yeah, you can. I'm sure they all analyse the minutiae more than we do. But I honestly think it would be very harsh for any of them to look in the mirror and expect more of themselves than they gave last year. They just have to go again and hope for a little bit of slightly different luck along the way. And the only things really that you think you can control, I suppose, it's really incredibly difficult to look at the season, look at the teams, look at the squads in the Premier League and think, do the same again. And in that way, you have to admire the way that Man City can keep attaining these phenomenal points totals and these unremitting finishes where they just go and go and go and go and don't drop a beat. Because, they're still humans like all of us. However they got to the stage where they're at, they've set a new bar.
Yeah.
And they're keeping to that bar. And that's difficult. But I think these players will have that inner hunger and determination to give it the same amount. Who knows what the outcome will be?
Yeah.
But it's going to be tough to even match those numbers from last year, let alone exceed them.
I agree.
There's a lot when in Arsenal's favour, having those extra key players fit all season is massive. And you can't necessarily guarantee that's going to happen again, but we all know who they are.
Yes. Yeah, well,
keeping people fit is going to be massive.
Yeah. What is the thing that excites you most about the new season as we sit here and we're contemplating kickoff against Wolves in a couple of days' time. We're recording a little bit ahead of time, obviously. And I still cannot shake that thing I had when I was a kid where at the start of the new season, I just had this optimistic outlook where I thought, well, why not? Why couldn't Arsenal do it this time around? And even if, the evidence was contrary to that, I still find it within myself to sort of look at the season in that way, in the best possible way or with the best possible outcome and hope for the best. So, I mean, what is it about this season that excites you?
I just love watching this team. I enjoy so much the experience of waking up on a match day to go and see my team and feel so much belief and so much affection for that group of players, because it wasn't that long ago that a lot of people had that feeling dulled. And it's hard work getting up and going whatever time you're getting up to watch your team wherever you are in the world and thinking, and you see the team, oh God, I was so, oh no, we don't need to, we know. Yeah. But every one of those guys makes me excited to watch them play. And like you, if you've got an optimistic outlook, they're all capable of magnificent stuff. How brilliant is that? It's not easy to spot a weak link in the team at the minute. And, there might be a couple things more that would be ideal in the transfer window. And I definitely don't think that this squad, as is recording today, is quite there. But if they can get the right things going to just lift, I think, Calafiori, wow, I'm very excited to see him. I mean, if you've grown up in the 80s and 90s on Serie A on a Saturday morning, and Italian defending is something kind of in your cultural references, that is golden, and I'm thrilled to have a long-haired Italian defender in our team. It's fabulous.
Yeah. I know who you're thinking of right there. Everyone knows who you're thinking of.
I mean, quite apart from that, my real defensive Italian idol was Franco Baresi.
Yeah.
He was the guy I thought was the bee's knees back in those days. And since then, I've always had a soft spot for Italian defenders. So, yeah, we've got one.
We've got one.
Fabulous. But, yeah, we know who's been looked at in midfield, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of names floating around up front. But if those two areas of the pitch could be similarly strengthened, They don't have to be Italian,
No.
And
They can come from anywhere.
Yeah. But the right kind of guy coming in those positions would make me feel super, super excited.
Is that maybe something the squad needs? Maybe the players themselves need that kind of addition to just sort of, I don't mean lift them, because I think, the motivation is going to be high. The way they're prepared and organized and everything else. Oh, are you still there? Oh, there
yeah. Just dropped out for a sec.
The way the squad is organized and prepared, I think, is top level. I think Mikel Arteta will be, wiping the slate clean, telling them to go again. But I think if you're looking around the dressing room as a player, maybe just that one or two extra guys who give you something different is part of what helps you, push on a little bit and give that bit extra and maybe continue what we did last season in the same way.
I think, like fans, players get excited by new signings. It does give a little bit of a lift and a little bit of what can they do?
Yeah, I mean, like Declan Rice coming in last year, that kind of a thing. Like, what did that do for the squad overall,
Going back to when Zenchenko and Jesus first arrived, there's been these incremental kind of arrivals of people who have influenced the character of the whole dressing room, I think. Mm-hmm. But I just think as well, if you've been so close and you're asking yourself that question, what more can we do to get over the line? And you're getting up and putting on the same clothes and walking the same walk. You do ask yourself, how can I do it better? But if there's something different, if you've got something new...
A new jacket?
Whatever.
A new hat?
I hope Coatman's still got his coat. I mean, that's...
Oh, man, that dude, look, he rocks that. He rocks that, doesn't he? My God.
But, I think from the players' point of view, if they're in a... Let's be honest, you look at Man City away, you look at Bayern Munich away, you look at those absolute elite top games... where maybe you need to go that tiny touch further. And if there's something else in the mix, it maybe gives you a little bit of relief that there's something else you can throw at these teams. Mm-hmm. I think just a tiny bit of unpredictability, because we all know, and our opponents all know, exactly what Arsenal are going to look like and do in this season coming up. And it's up to them to try and be better than us. Mm-hmm. But if you've got a couple of new ideas or new strains within the kind of the DNA of the team, okay. I mean, even thinking about whether you play Zenchenko or Calafiori from the start of the season, we've got tough away games coming up really quickly, and you can imagine teams with quick wingers maybe targeting Zinchenko's side because that they know that there's a potential vulnerability there. But if they've got Calafiori, okay, how do we deal with this guy?
Yeah.
What's he going to bring? It's just a bit different.
Yeah.
So maybe I think if there's something particularly in the attacking sphere that we can bring that's new, in the way that once Havertz settled, it was like, okay, well, this is completely different. Mm-hmm. And everybody responded to it. It took a while to get there, but once it did, it had a transformative effect on Arsenal's attack. And if somebody else can come in who offers something slightly different to the players that are already there, I'm sure they're all going to get plenty of game time, then that's something I'd quite like to see as an option.
Yeah, me too. A bit of variety, I suppose. In the attacking end of the pitch, something different. I don't quite know what it is, but I do think everybody would. Well, I mean, that's the thing. It could be a striker, could be a winger, could be like a guy who can play in all those positions. I don't know. I mean, my sense or my gut feeling is that they're going to do something, but I don't know who it is or when that's going to happen. But I feel like it's necessary as well, because I do think you have to try and augment what you've got. Just very finally, I don't want to keep you too long. Let's leave Calafiori to one side, because you're obviously enthused enough about him already. But if I were to ask you for a player to watch, or somebody you're excited about, or somebody you're keen to keep a keen eye on, maybe who might that be within the context of the players we have already that you think could give us a bit more? Or just somebody that you're just really looking forward to watching this season because of what they bring to this team?
Well, I'm excited to see more of Havertz because obviously it was an evolving season last year. And now that he's completely and utterly integrated, I'd be curious to see whether there's even more that he can bring. The relationships are even deeper within the group. But I think above all, this is a really significant season for Martinelli. He definitely lost his mojo a bit last year. And he's such a determined, single-minded young man that I think he would have been immensely frustrated by that. And it's not the first time in his career that he's had a period where, he's been out the team for a while and it's taken him a while to sort of like reassert his credentials, which he then did brilliantly. And I think that's needed a little bit now because, Trossard obviously sees that opportunity and I think now there's such an intriguing question about maybe who's the starter and who's the finisher out of those two in matches because they do offer slightly different things. But in terms of what I would call kind of like angry pace or furious pace, that aspect of Martinelli is a really great asset for the team. But it needs to be accompanied by ruthlessness, cleverness, smart decision-making, and just, finding goals again on a more regular basis. Because if that can happen, that could be a really, really, that could give a boost that wasn't there last season.
Yeah, I think you make a great point about Martinelli and the setbacks that he's had in his career. Because when he came in first, he sort of hit the ground running. Then he had that injury. Then he was out of the team. There was all that discussion about whether Mikel Arteta liked him or not. And it was more a case of, making sure that he's ready. And then was fantastic and has had another setback. And I'm like you. He's one of the players I think that we can get more out of. And if we do, then we're going to be in good shape. I think he's got the talent and the potential to do it. So if he can get back to scoring and assisting on a regular basis, then I think it's going to be a positive thing for everyone. So, all right. Well, look, we'll leave it there. We'll catch up during the season. Let's hope that everything goes in the way that we would like. All those points get on the board very quickly, and we have the title sewn up by March. Might do it, and we can all just relax in the final few weeks of the season instead of heart attacks.
You got an arm I can snap off there.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, not mine. I need it for the moment. Amy, as ever, thank you very much.
Cheers, Andrew. Go well.
Thank you very much indeed to Amy. You can find her writing about Arsenal throughout the season over on The Athletic and as part of the Handbrake Off podcast crew, another Arsenal podcast that you can listen to whenever you're finished listening to the Arsecast, of course. Okay, let's move on. And my next guest is a features writer for Sky Sports. He does really in-depth interviews and statistical pieces, and he just did an interview this week with David Raya. So why don't we talk to him about that and a bit more besides? It is Nick Wright. Hi, Nick.
Hello, Andrew. Hello, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you very much. I enjoyed your piece with David Raya. I enjoyed some of the numbers, and as ever, you flesh these things out in a really interesting way, but in a way that doesn't confuse my number. My brain isn't set up for numbers,
Glad to hear it.
How did you find David Raya, the mood? Does he feel settled? I think he's well and truly in the number one seat now, so I think he feels like a comfortable man, obviously off the back of a good summer with Spain as well.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I didn't really know what to expect from him, to be honest. It didn't feel like he's done loads of media since coming to Arsenal, so it was interesting to do the interview, and he was great. Yeah, really good talker in very relaxed mood. Coming in, it was sort of 9 a.m. before training. He's an early starter by all accounts. He's always in the training ground having his breakfast and likes to get things going early. Have his team meetings with Iñaki Kanya and the other goalkeepers, all that kind of thing. But no, he was good. He seemed very positive. he's obviously back in training now, and he started both of those Emirates Cup games, didn't he? So he's sort of regaining his sharpness. He did mention that, you start having joined late after the Euros, you're kind of playing catch up to an extent with the rest of the team in terms of your sharpness. But no, I fully expect him to start the season. And it was really interesting to talk to him about some of the nuances of his role and a bit on some of the other players there as well.
Yeah, the way he talks about his development of as a goalkeeper is very interesting, because he was at Blackburn, he went to Brentford, which is where he first encountered Iñaki Kanya, who's the goalkeeping coach now, and he's basically said, this guy has transformed the way that I play and the way that I operate as a goalkeeper. And it is about being proactive. It's about catching crosses. It's about quick delivery when you get the ball. So rather than making saves, you prevent the chance, which I think is a really interesting way of looking at goalkeeping, because we've had brilliant goalkeepers in the past who, haven't strayed too far off their line. They might be good in the air, they might be dominant, but the whole position has changed so drastically in the last maybe 10 years, where you've got to be good with your hands, you've got to be good with your feet, you've got to be sharp, you've got to be able to play outside the box. All of these things that are part of a top level goalkeeper's makeup are so interesting. And it's interesting as well to talk to somebody who maybe wasn't that, but has become that over the period of time that he's been in England.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. I think it's probably a testament to Brentford's recruitment as well, in a way. He was talking about being a completely different goalkeeper at Blackburn, and yet Brentford identified the fact that he was able to potentially play in this completely different way, which I think reflects quite well on them. And obviously his progress as a goalkeeper has really accelerated, hasn't it, with Kanya? And I think that, being reunited at Arsenal has obviously that's worked to everyone's advantage at Arsenal, because they clearly work so well together. And in terms of the way he plays, I mean, it's funny, isn't it? Because it probably means there are fewer kind of Hollywood moments for him, fewer sort of eye-catching saves, and more of the things that Arteta talked about at one point last season in terms of preventing things before they happen. So it's an interesting role he plays, but it's definitely an important one for the team, and it's one he really enjoys. Also, I should say, he loves the build-up and contributing to the attack, and that was another interesting part of the interview, I think. Yeah,
I mean, there's the stat where he had 7 quick throws last season, which led to a chance, and no other goalkeeper had more than 2. And there's been some talk this season about Mikel Arteta focusing on quick restarts, whether it's throws, whether it's goal kicks, and I think much of that obviously starts with Raya.
Absolutely, yeah, and he needs to be kind of in tune with the rest of the team, doesn't he? And that's why I think Arsenal do a lot of collective work on those kind of moves and building the play in that way. And that Crystal Palace game last season, I think, is probably the best example, isn't it? When Raya sort of threw it out to Gabriel Jesus carried it forward and squared it for Trossard to score, and you saw Arteta on the touchline sort of almost, he looked like he wanted to run onto the pitch and embrace Raya, but I think that said a lot, and it shows you what an important part of the team's approach that is.
Ahead of him, though, he's had consistency, really, hasn't he? With Gabriel and William Saliba, Ben White, to one side. There's been a little more chopping and changing at left back, but he does give credit to those guys ahead of him for making his life easier too. Yeah,
he was. Playing behind Gabriel and Saliba must be about as good as it gets for a goalkeeper, really. They've become such a strong pairing, haven't they? And I guess there might be a little more change in that unit this season, which will be interesting. Last season it was so consistent with Ben White, with the left back spot I suppose wasn't so consistent, but with Calafiori coming in, with Timber fit again, he'll have to get used to some new players there, so that'll be interesting to see how the unit comes together. I think we'll see a lot of kind of changing depending on the opposition, a lot of different shapes and a lot of different systems, different ways of using those defenders in front of him. But I think his understanding with Saliba and Gabriel certainly helps the team, and that should stay pretty consistent, I think.
What struck me in reading the article, when we think about the goalkeeping position, and Raya is obviously established as number 1, is what happens. Let's say Aaron Ramsdale gets a move tomorrow and Arsenal are happy to sanction that move and let him go, and he wants to play. I think everybody can understand that. But what Arsenal then require from a number 2 goalkeeper is so interesting, because all of these things that we've just spoken about with regards Raya, with regards the influence that he has on the team, the way the team plays, how effective what he does can be, not just as a goalkeeper, but in terms of how the team attacks, that's probably something you want to replicate with your number 2 goalkeeper. Now, I know that's easier said than done, but when you go back to when Ramsdale came in and they brought in Matt Turner, it didn't really seem like a good fit, because by his own admission, Matt Turner's ability on the ball was perhaps the weakest part of his game. He was a good shot stopper in his box, a good goalkeeper, but that was something he was having to learn at quite an advanced age for a professional footballer. So what's your sense of what Arsenal will look for in this number 2 goalkeeper, making the assumption, a big one as it might be at this moment in time, that Ramsdale moves on?
I think it is probably likely that he moves on, isn't it? I mean, he's kind of too good to be a number 2 goalkeeper. He's a top goalkeeper, albeit maybe not the goalkeeper that Arsenal want now. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because it's not just the kind of style of the goalkeeper who comes in that you need to consider, but it's also the fact that, this guy's going to come in, whoever it may be, and he's someone who needs to probably accept that at least for a period of time he's going to be the second choice, and that is a challenge in itself, isn't it, to find a player who is A, good enough to play in goal for Arsenal, and B, willing to potentially be the number 2 at least for a period of time. So that is that's a challenge, and I always think that is one of the biggest challenges in recruitment. Finding players who are good enough, but who are willing to kind of wait in the wings. You think about all the trouble Tottenham had finding an understudy to Harry Kane. It's because anyone who goes in there as a striker knows that they're probably not going to get many minutes. So it is a challenge, and Raya is now so established as number 1 that's going to be something that I'm sure will need to come into the thinking of the club.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it is, if you want to bring in a different kind of striker, you can bring in a different kind of striker. If you want a different wide option, you can bring in a slightly different kind of player. In midfield, a bit of variety is useful. Maybe even at the back, a different kind of fullback for a different kind of game. But if your goalkeeper is fundamental to the way that you play, you want basically the same goalkeeper, but someone who's not quite as good and who isn't going to push too hard. It is a difficult ask, isn't it? That when you achieve that level of specificity, to use a Mikel Arteta phrase, it becomes increasingly difficult to find the right guy.
It does, yeah. There have been some reports linking Arsenal with the Espanyol keeper, haven't there, João Garcia, which is an interesting one. Obviously, he's from that kind of Spanish school as well. Very, very highly thought of from what I gather in Spain, and he's come up from the second division, so he hasn't had much experience in the kind of top tier in Spain, but. Maybe that's someone the club will look at. I'm not sure, but he's potentially on the agenda. Maybe it is a question of getting someone younger who's kind of got space to grow, and maybe that's the way to approach it. They've obviously already brought in Tommy Setford, haven't they? It looks like he might be the third choice. So a lot of change in that part of the pitch, for sure. Yeah.
Well, we'll see what plays out between now and the end of the window. Just in terms of the season ahead. What most excites you about this season? What's your mood going into this one? Because it's easy to be optimistic. It's also easy to think, oh, can we do that well again?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, Arsenal did so incredibly well last season. We're talking about small differences to try and just make up that small gap to Man City. I think at the start of the summer, when it looked like Man City might potentially lose Ederson, they might potentially have to sell De Bruyne. Maybe from Arsenal's perspective, I was feeling, more optimistic for their chances. I mean, I still do feel they've got a really good chance, and I see them improving more. So I would say they're in a good position. I think I'm excited about the defence, as I mentioned before. With Timber coming back as well as Calafiori coming in. Raya was quite funny on Calafiori's kind of playing style, saying he'd stick his head in a washing machine was the quote. He, in terms of his willingness to kind of chuck himself into challenges and go for headers. And remember, this is obviously a guy who's barely played yet, so this is all from training. He's clearly really getting stuck in training. So I think it'll be interesting to see how Arteta uses him. The left back position and all that. Another one is Martinelli. After a kind of a bit of a dip last year, can he get back to the form we saw from him before? Can he be as effective as he was? So, that left side is going to be interesting, I think. But, no, I feel like Arsenal have got a great chance. I think that this pattern of improvement under Arteta is kind of amazing, really, and I think it will continue.
I probably know the answer to this because whenever I ask anybody, it is more or less the same. But if there was something else you would like the club to do during the window or like to see before the end of the transfer window, what would that be?
I'm not sure, really. I think everyone talks about the need for a striker, don't they? I guess I'm slightly more relaxed on that, maybe. I think Kai Havertz finished so well last season. He looked so good in the role. Has looked good in pre-season. You got Gabriel Jesus coming back. I think Arsenal can. How many goals did Arsenal score last season? It was a ridiculous number, wasn't it? A record-breaking number. So I'm not sure I subscribe to the idea that they have to go and get a striker this summer. I think a midfielder would be a positive move, and it does sound like the Mikel Merino might be that man. And he would be an interesting signing, I think, someone who could potentially slot into that left-sided midfield role. That would be an interesting one. But the midfield is probably the area I look at most. I say that now I'm thinking about the wide positions as well. Is there a need for more depth there? So there are a few areas, aren't there? But I'll stick with my original answer.
All right, fair enough. Anything else is a bonus then for you. That's the way it works. Just finally, if I was to ask you, to pick a player that you're excited to watch in the season ahead, who would that be?
I guess I'd have to say Calafiori from an Arsenal perspective. He looked so good at the Euros, didn't he? I haven't seen much of him from Bologna, but it looks like he'll bring something different to Arsenal's back line.
He doesn't seem to necessarily fit the sort of stereotypes that we have about defenders. There's a bit of, I don't know, a bit of flair, whether it's to do with the hair, the looks, or the whole package, whatever it is. But he just has this kind of way of marauding through the pitch. And we saw it during the Euros as well at times. That would be an exciting sight. Yeah,
for sure. I think he's got that kind of air of a maverick about him, hasn't he? He's someone who can contribute in an attacking and a defensive sense, I think. And he's another giant. He looks enormous, doesn't he? And it's just Arsenal is just becoming such a physically dominant team, and that seems to be something Arteta is keen to build on. He'll be fun to watch, I think.
All right. Well, look, thank you very much as always for your time. We'll keep a keen eye on your articles during the season. They're always great over on the Sky Sports website. For now, though, Nick, thanks very much.
Thanks, Andrew. Pleasure.
Thank you very much indeed to Nick. You'll find a link in the show notes to his piece about David Raya, and you can keep an eye on his stuff over the course of the season over on the Sky Sports website. We are going to take a little break here. Well, if you're a Patreon member, you won't get a break. You won't get an ad here because all of the podcasts that we do on Patreon, the Arsecast, Arsecast Extra, Arsenal Women Arsecast, are completely and utterly ad-free. And if you'd like to get involved with our Patreon and all the stuff that we've got going on over the course of the season, preview podcasts for every game that we play in the Premier League, Champions League, and some of the big cup games as well. Our Premier League roundup podcast called The 30. We do poorly drawn stuff. We do waffle podcasts. You get Discord chat. There's all kinds of stuff that you can get involved in over the course of the season over on Patreon. It costs $6 a month, and you can do it at patreon.com/Arseblog. Patreon.com/Arseblog. It is, as I said, completely ad-free. So if you fancy a bit of that, you know what to do. The rest of you just hang tight. All right, let's get going again, and it's my pleasure to welcome to the show former Gunner and somebody you will know from his work with the official website, The Breakdown, Breakdown Live, Matchday stuff, and lots more. It is Adrian Clarke. Hi, Adrian.
Hello, Andrew. Yeah, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm ready for a new season. Are you?
Yeah, well, I've had a busy old week. I'm a little bit knackered at the moment, but a couple of days to recharge, and we go again, don't we, in the Premier League? So happy days.
Saturday, 3 o'clock is kind of a nice way to do it as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I do like that. And look, Wolves is an interesting opener. I actually rate Gary O'Neill quite highly, and I think he is a smart coach, and I think he's someone that really preps his players properly. Mm-hmm. So in a way, like, people will look at it and say, Arsenal have got Wolves at home, give me 3 points. And hopefully it will be, but there's a bit of me that thinks the worst time to play Gary O'Neill is first game of the season, because he's had months to think about it. Yeah. And he is one of those thinkers. So let's see. But yeah, 3:00 Saturday, it feels right, doesn't it?
Yeah, traditional, hopefully the sun's shining and all the rest, so we can get ourselves off to a good win to start with. Before we get on to some other things about the season, I wanted to talk just a little bit maybe about Ethan Nwaneri and Miles Lewis-Skelly, and maybe sort of adjacent to that, Aidan Heaven as well. But Nwaneri and Lewis-Skelly in particular stood out during preseason. I was over at the games in the States, and they both looked very, very impressive. They're involved in the 2 games at the Emirates last week against Lyon, against Bayer Leverkusen. They've been involved all the way through preseason. They were involved in the media day yesterday. You know, they're the 3 young guys who were getting their pictures taken. They're up there with the first team squad. The reality, though, I suppose, for these guys is that they're not going to play a lot of first team football. How difficult do you think that adjustment will be for them, having been so involved? Or do you think this has all been laid out to them, that, look, we're going to get you involved, we're going to integrate you, you're going to train, you're going to play, but when the meat and drink of the season comes along, you know, we have to be realistic about your involvement in this, keep working, you'll get your chances, all those kinds of things. Yeah. Will it be tough for them, or will this summer have given them like this taste of something that they really want?
Yeah, I think it's the latter, definitely. They will now feel so much more confident that they can handle it if they come in for real. And I know that Ethan Nwaneri has played for real and you know, coming at West Ham and Brentford, didn't he? So, yeah, I think that it will give them fresh determination and hunger to be better than the other guys in training, because they know that they're going to get opportunities to train with the first team a lot. You know, most weeks I imagine they'll be with the group. So, that they're in such a good position. The unfortunate thing for those guys is that if they'd have come through 5 years ago, they'd be getting game time. Yeah. But then this first team is so much stronger than the first team that Smith Rowe and Saka came into, for example, and Reece Nelson. So it's that bit harder. And I think for that reason, they have to have a little bit more realism. I agree. I would imagine a lot of all of the coaching staff will have mapped it out to a degree, given them that belief that they're part of the plans, but also just warn them that, look, the chances are quite slim that you're going to get game time early on in the season. Carabao Cup, FA Cup will be interesting. Maybe a loan spell. It doesn't have to be a loan spell for them, but they both look excellent. Nwaneri and Lewis-Skelly, very composed. Lewis-Skelly obviously is this hybrid left-back central midfield. Superb. And Nwaneri is the standout for me, because he's got that physical power already. Yeah. And he can skip past players that are men. He can make good decisions at the right times, like Saka, because for me, that's always been Saka's best strength. It is when he opens up a space, he makes the right choice 9 times out of 10. And most kids only make it half the time. You know, I think Nwaneri is really calm in those situations. So, yeah, big step forward for those two. Heaven is going to be harder for him. So I think centre half he's got a stiff competition there. Yeah. And, very stiff competition. And I think that he looks like a player that needs a bit more first-team game time. I see potentially a loan for him moving forwards. Maybe not so much so for the other two, not initially anyway. But, yeah, exciting times for them. I wish I could swap places. Yeah, me too. Those days have long gone. Those chances have long gone as well. I think I needed more than 1 or 2 loan spells as well to get up to the level. I did want to just sort of talk about Nwaneri a little bit as well, where, you know, we're reading today, we're recording on Wednesday, and we're reading reports that Arsenal are stepping up their pursuit of someone like Mikel Merino. He's 28, right? He's got all the experience. I think he makes a lot of sense as a signing, as somebody who could come in and hit the ground running, if you like, because he's got all this experience for Spain, for Dortmund. He's played in the Premier League before. He's going to understand the tactical elements that Mikel Arteta wants.
But at the same time as well, he's not a guy who's going to come in necessarily and be there super, super long term. So, if you're looking at trying to balance what the squad needs right now, as well as maintaining the pathway for someone like Nwaneri, it isn't easy, is it, to do that, because the demands and the expectations are so high, but there are also demands and expectations that we bring players through from Hale End.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, but you've got to be good enough, and hopefully, these two guys, in particular, Nwaneri, will turn out to be good enough. He certainly looks it at the moment. Yeah, look, if I'm Ethan Nwaneri right now, and we sign Mikel Merino, for example, I'm not overly gutted about that, because it'd be better for a 28-year-old to come in than a 23-year-old. That would be the way I would look at it. Yeah. Someone that could be in that first team for 5-6 years. That won't be the case for Merino. You've also got Jorginho and Thomas Partey in midfield. I know slightly different players, but they're in their 30s as well. The twin number 8s is a big thing. As long as that continues, I think he's going to be in the frame. Mm-hmm. Injuries can happen, can't they? What if Odegaard's out, heaven forbid, for a period, he won't be too far away from coming into that slot potentially. Same, you don't want Declan Rice if he's going to play on the left, or Havertz to get injured either. But if they did, he does have the game, doesn't he? He has the skill set to be that driving force from the sort of side of centre. So yeah, look, I think he's got a very exciting future. You got to remember how old he is. He's still a baby, isn't he? He has got plenty of time and will be a star for us, I'm sure.
Sure. Is there anything you've seen in pre-season from the way Mikel Arteta has set up his team or chosen particular players that makes you think there might be any kind of tactical adjustment this season? Or is it a case, because of the summer that we've had with players coming back late, Rice, Saka, the two goalkeepers, Saliba coming back late, that he's just sort of had to pick teams to play the games and to win the games, and that might be something that we see perhaps over the course of the season, rather than practicing things in pre-season in an ideal summer where you've got everybody together, you can try out different things?
Yeah, nothing radical has changed, definitely, but that is because of the personnel. Look, David Raya was only available for the last 2 games, the Emirates matches, and everything starts with David Raya. With his distribution from the back. When Karl Hein was there, he made some good saves on tour and did okay, but with the ball at his feet, just not at the same level as David Raya. So we had to play differently there. I would say the pressing has stood out again. I think year on year, we've made progression in the quality of our press, not just the application and the work rate and the hunger, but actually in the organisation of it, in the way we sort of suffocate teams and plan the way that players go to close opponents down. I think that's really stood out on tour. It did in America, and I think at the games at the Emirates as well, it did. Obviously, we scored a goal against Leverkusen that way, caused Lyon a lot of problems. So, yeah, the way we're pressing is impressive. We're causing a lot. You're causing teams major issues when they're trying to play out from the back. So that is a step forward. The other standout for me is probably Zinchenko's a reminder from Zinni of what he's got to offer. Because I think a lot of people had written him off, and it might be the case that Calafiori and Timber always play ahead of him. I don't know, but in pre-season, I think he's done well, and his passing and his crossing has been excellent. And it feels like the arrival of those two players has sort of given him a bit of a nudge. So, I think Zinni's still got a part to play. I mean,
he's probably going to start on Saturday, I think, because Calafiori's only just come in and they're clearly easing him into action. Timber has been out for a long time. So again, I think he might be somebody who's eased back into action. So, in the absence of another option, I think Zenchenko is that guy, isn't he? And he's changed his number. And I think by his own admission, he didn't have a good season last season. He strikes me as the kind of guy who will try and do a lot better and make a better show of it.
Oh, he's a good pro, yeah. My fear for Zinchenko is that it might not even matter what he does in the game against Wolves, that the manager might have in mind Calafiori and giving him more game time, so that he might have an hour and then Calafiori may come on, with the game at Aston Villa in mind. Aston Villa away is a tough fixture. We know all about that.
Yeah.
Our bogey team from last year. And if Calafiori is fit and available for that fixture, I think it'll be really hard for Mikel Arteta to leave him out. So he's got to make the most of that first half. I think Zenchenko against Wolves.
What do you make? I don't know if you're like completely on the inside. I don't want you to give away any trade secrets or anything
honestly,
like that.
I'm really not.
Yeah, I know you're on the side of the pitch, so that's closer than most of us get, right? But I just wanted to ask about, your sense of, I'm not asking for inside information, but your sense of the mood, the seriousness, the determination to go one better than last season, to sort of, I think one of the trademarks of the development of this team is the response to setback. We saw it the season when we didn't get the top four, and then we saw it when we didn't get the title, and then we saw it last year when we didn't get the title again. That each year, and this is an incredibly difficult thing to ask and an incredibly difficult thing to do, but every year that we've had a setback, we've come back better and we've come back stronger. And I presume there's only so many times you can do that before you go, what can we do here? But I think the way that Mikel Arteta will prepare his team organizationally, tactically, motivationally, if that's even a word, will be about doing that again this time around.
Yeah, there's no let up with Mikel Arteta, is there? Standards have to be unbelievably high. They have to be. And he won't tolerate any downturn. If there is a downturn in attitude, in application, in the listening, in carrying out instructions, those players will be out. He's ruthless. We know that, but he's also a brilliant man manager that keeps everyone motivated, particularly the squad players as well. So I think the only time it becomes frustrating, of course it's frustrating not to win titles and trophies, but I think the players are very well aware that they're making progress year on year. Now, what we don't want is a backward step. And if there's a backward step, that's when people start to think, maybe we're not going to do it after all. And then they start to look elsewhere. I think as it stands, the sense I get from the players is that they're very serious, very hungry, and very confident that this could be their year. And I don't think there's any reason why they shouldn't be incredibly confident, because they were good enough to be champions last year. And presuming we make another step forward this time around, we've got a better chance. I'm super optimistic. I haven't been this optimistic about Arsenal side winning the title since Thierry Henry was leading the line. Yeah, with Bergkamp and Vieira was in midfield. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
These are good times.
They certainly are. All that said, we all want a bit more. We all want a bit extra. So just sort of finally, when you look at the squad, it is a very strong squad. As you said, it was, good enough to win the title last season, even if they didn't win it. I think, that's splitting hairs. Anyone that says just because they didn't doesn't mean they couldn't and weren't good enough. It's a matter of a goal here or there. That's all it was. But if you look at the squad right now, we've mentioned Marino, for example, coming in midfield. And look, that might happen, might not happen, but it looks like it could. What else would you like to see go on with the squad before the end of the transfer window?
Yeah, as a striker, I'd like two signings, ideally. Someone that can deputise for Saka, a young, talented right winger in his mould to come in. They'll be happy to sit there and not make too many starts, but someone with rich promise, and a striker, but a top end striker. Just to challenge Havertz and Jesus, because if we've seen the impact, I would like that striker to be quite tall and quick, ideally. Which is why I think the chase for Benjamin Sesko made complete sense at the start of this window. Pace and height are big. We've seen what Havertz can bring, haven't we? In terms of the difference he makes, his movement's great. We know what Jesus offers. He's a live wire. He's a joy to watch. But neither of those two guys are killers in the box, are they? They can score goals. They're gifted. They will score goals, but they're not. Goals aren't everything to them. They're not goal munchers, as I like to call them. They don't live for goals. I think we could do with someone, an option of a player that is that fox in the box, that is really super clinical. Man City away, Bayern Munich away. We looked short, didn't we? We played okay between both boxes. just at the highest level, at that elite level, we just looked a little bit, off it. And that is the area we can improve in. That is the margin that Mikel Arteta is looking at. So if we've got any money to spend, I would dearly like to spend it on a front man that can deliver that, and to create unbelievable competition for places at the top end of the pitch, because injuries do occur. And if Havertz was to get injured for a lengthy period, it's just Jesus, really, or Trossard as a false nine. We need someone else, because I think Eddie is going to leave by the looks of things. So, that's on my wish list.
All right.
I don't know whether you agree or not.
No, I would. I'm curious, though, just to sort of very quickly touch on what you said about the backup for Saka, and that's a discussion, a debate that's been had for a long time, where people want maybe just to ease the burden on Bukayo Saka, because he plays all the time, and we worry about him, and we worry about how much responsibility he's taken and what the physical demands might be on him. But how difficult is it to bring in a player who knows that they've got Bukayo Saka in front of him? So when you talk about bringing somebody in, are you, let's say, let's go down the league a bit, maybe, or down into the champion, or bring in a young, talented player who might be able to, make progress? Or
maybe. I mean, Spurs had that problem with Kane, didn't they? They couldn't find anyone that wanted to be his understudy. And it is the same for Saka. But, I mean, I don't know. That one name, I haven't even thought about this. I've not scouted the kid. But someone that I remember from the Champions League last year, the boy at PSV, is it Bakayoko was his name? 21, 22. Fantastic record of goals and assists for them. Definitely one of their star players, but not the finished article. Made impact in the Champions League. Someone like that, would love a move to the Arsenal. And talented young players always back themselves, Andrew. They will always believe, even if Saka is there, they always believe, I can be better than him. They will. But it has to be someone young, up and coming, that is prepared to sort of accept being a bit part player at the outset, with a view to one day earning their Spurs. So, someone of that ilk is what I've got in mind. There's no point signing someone that you wouldn't trust. They've got to be a top class player. You don't want to block the pathway for a youngster either, do you? That's coming through. So they've got to be excellent. But it's a tricky-ish sell. But we're Arsenal. We are the Arsenal. Yeah. And we're the best club in London. We've got the best team in London that plays the most attractive football, with by far the most exciting head coach around, that has a proven track record of improving players. Honestly, I think almost every player in Europe or South America would find it really hard to turn Arsenal down at the moment. So let's flex those muscles if we can.
Sure, why not?
That's the way I look at it anyway.
All right, why not? I like it. I think, the more the merrier as far as I'm concerned, and the more quality we have, the merrier. And certainly I think you just mentioned South America there. Maybe that's, an area that we can exploit as well. But look, we better leave it there, Adrian. Let's look forward to a great season ahead, and to going one better than last time around. For now, thanks very much.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much indeed to Adrian Clarke. You'll see and hear lots of him over the course of the season over on Arsenal.com. Right, my final guest for today's show is a comedian many of you will know, but also, very obviously, a big Arsenal fan as well. It's my pleasure to welcome back my fellow countryman, Dara O'Brien. Hi there.
How are you, man? Are you well?
I am all right. You look like you've had a busy summer at the Olympics, and now you're in Edinburgh. It's all go.
I've replaced basically one 24-hour celebration of human excellence with another by going to Edinburgh for the Fringe Festival. I'm all about immersive experiences now. To the extent that, and this happens sometimes in Edinburgh, but it certainly happened this year, I'm going, Jesus, are we back again? Is this starting again? Is the football? I don't think I'm fully ready for it yet. I have to mourn the death of the Olympics, which I really went for in a big way. And also the hurling championship and Euro 2024, and it's just been a constant thing that I think a couple of weeks wouldn't be bad had this not. I might not fully commit to this 38-week run,
right? Just
yet.
Do you want us to have a word with the Premier League and see if they can just push things back a bit to suit you.
If they could, would that hurt? If you said, look, Dara, he needs some clear thinking space between the end of like, Germany versus Spain in the women's volleyball and the start of whatever, this, because I've gone on this mad love affair of sport versus random sports. I was at an amazing archery final about 8 days ago. So, which literally the men's archery tournament came down to one arrow each, who gets closest to the middle. The whole tournament came down to two guys, and it said, right, and it was like the full Robin Hood rules. Right, you get one shot each, and whoever hits the pig wins. Like, it was amazing. That was all of that, and I totally go for all that. Meanwhile, knowing that my actual day job of week by week obsessing about Arsenal is trundling ever closer. I'm still in flighty. It's Greece. I'm there with the guys going, oh man, what a summer I had. I fell in love with all these.
Tell me more.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you all about the trampolining final. Do you want me to tell you all about the trampolining final? I'll do that like this.
Oh man, well look, yeah, you're gonna have to get your energy ready for this, because it's very soon.
I mean, look, it'll snap in the minute the whistle goes. I'll be all over. But like, I'll tell my favorite story. I was in the athletics for one of the evenings and saw that we were just behind the BBC studio. Because they're literally just on the concourse. They're literally on the ground level concourse. All of the different studios with like black curtains. And the BBC studio was right beside a hot dog stand, which was really, but they'd have been clocked up like that. They're actually, here we are in this amazing. No, you are right behind the queue for Cokes and popcorn. But so I stood there, and I know Gabby Logan from London. Sure. And I ran up around and shouted at her, which you're not really supposed to do, but they weren't in broadcast mode, and shouted, and she came over and said, oh, hello. She said, Jesus, you're at because I went to loads of the Irish stuff. And she said, God, she said, you're like Snoop Dogg for Ireland, she said. And we were laughing about this, right? And Michael Johnson was there. And Michael Johnson's like one of my great sporting heroes. What an absolute legend. 4 gold medals, all that stuff. Fabulous. And I said, is there any chance I could go and say hello, get a photo? She says, absolutely. Come on in. He's lovely. Went over, hello, Michael. And Gabby Logan went, this is Dara Briain. He's like Ireland's Snoop Dogg. And so we got a photograph together. And then it's a lovely photograph of me just standing looking huge in a t-shirt with Team Ireland on it, like whatever, and a hat with a shamrock, the whole thing. And I said, look, thanks very much. I'll let you go. You're about to start the broadcast. And I ran off. And it was only the following day that I realized we never gave him any more information than that he might not have realized in what way I was like our Snoop Dogg, and just thought, oh, this must be one of Ireland's leading hip-hop performers I'm meeting at the moment.
He's just on Spotify afterwards going, who is this Dara guy, and when is his new record dropping?
Yeah, wow, because he comes across quite like a big middle-aged white man. I don't think he doesn't seem in any way like, but that's really how they do it in Ireland. So so that was my favorite little sweet moment.
That's amazing. We are heading to the new season. I was wondering what you think of Mikel Arteta's motivational methods, keeping his players on their toes by having, he said professional pickpockets, but I think another word for that is thieves. But anyway, yes. Professional pickpockets coming in and lifting the players' phones and wallets, so they stay switched on at set pieces, so they're always aware of what's going on. Are you a fan of that kind of stuff?
I don't. Okay, no, I have to say, but I'm not a fan of that kind of stuff on a professional level, because those guys would be somewhere in the same brochure I am, and the next page is the singing waiters or the Faulty Towers, dining experience. Like he's ideally coming to for your next corporate event. Why not have a juggler pretend to be one of the waiters? And oh my God, I'm juggling, like whatever it's got. And I've seen these, and you're kind of backstage in the dressing room. They're going, so what do you do? And they go, pickpocket. And then they're kind of like, well, how'd you get into that? Like so it's like they're the clowns of the, it's like it's a weird kind of booking. Also, it feels like a very literal piece of because people will go, but I'm not at Mikel, I'm not in a set piece situation at the moment. I'm at dinner. I get the point that when I'm at work, I should be. But really, context is everything. Short of had he arranged to, during the meal, that he'd whip a ball over and that Magalhaes would suddenly leap up and smash it in with his head. And then he turned to him and go, were you not ready? Why were you not ready for the ball that I kicked onto your table? It's Kato. It's Kato in the Pink Panther. Not now, Mikel. Not now. Sure, just some time where Mikel fires in another in-swinger, just randomly. You're all just queuing in the cafeteria, and suddenly Mikel beats the first man with another ball, and everyone has to quickly. Ben White has to quickly struggle somebody to the ground. Jesus! At any moment, we're still doing things. I mean, this set piece thing.
Is that going to be your new listing in the catalogue, by the way, Ireland's Snoop Dogg?
Yeah, look, I'm going to lead into this in a way that's it's completely imperceptible to Snoop Dogg as well. We ran around one of the stadiums at one of the gymnastics event, by the way, and for McClenaghan was there, and when he won the gold, our pommel horser, and then I met him in the bar. There was an Irish bar that they all went to, and I was filled with a surge of Irishness about this thing, right? And somebody, so I said to my wife, I'm really going to have to go and tonight be with Irish people because it's been a very Irish day, whatever they would celebrate. She was like, fine, you go and do that, whatever. And I went to the Irish bar thing, and McClenaghan was there with his coach, and I went up and said, oh, that was really, really good, that was really impressive, and he was like, oh wow, I saw you there, so glad you were there. And you're going, you're kidding me. And the coach said, yeah, we heard you singing the national anthem. From the
Is that like when the players line up for a match and the camera goes along and then it just gets a bit too close to one guy and you hear what an amazing singer he is?
It is. Or maybe I'm Gunnosaurus in this situation. I've been caught out and I'm not there. But I was belting it out hugely at the guys. No, look. We have to do this thing, and I'm sure the players don't have this as well. I'm sure that the players don't have a. Oh God, is this starting again? They seem as if they're on it in a huge way. In fact, I did a gig the other night in Highbury in Upper Street, just off Upper Street in Highbury, and then I walked out of the station, and it was just when they were going into the Leverkusen match.
Oh yeah.
And it was slightly weirdly jarring that I walked out of the stadium where it was all Arsenal fans, and then I had to take a right where they took a left to go to the stadium, and I went oh my God, this is all, here we go again with all this, whatever. But we look sharp. We look, pinging the ball around. I'd be worried if I was Leverkusen. That seemed to be, that's over. I would shift all my stock out of Leverkusen. But yeah, I mean, and in terms of how we're prepared, Calafiori, am I right in saying Calafiori plays the same position as three other players at the moment?
Well, I mean, he can play left back, he can play left centre back. We're not quite sure where exactly he's going to play, but I think probably in the longer term left back. He can play in midfield as well, I think.
But is that not what Timber was going to be?
Well, Timber's more earmarked for the right hand side. I know he did start last season at left back, but I think he is going to be he played pre-season at right centre back. He can play right back as well. So I think he's there to sort of let Ben White hit the tanning salon once in a while, and Calafiori will be
fine. Okay, yeah. I thought we were just overloading it heavily. There was 4 options for left back, and then 5 if you count Tierney. And that it was just like he's at some point he'd run them all out, and the whole thing would just tilt to one side because they're all just bombing down or cutting in, or bombing down and cutting in on that side, But it seemed to be that's the place we're going, there's a part of it yes, I can see why. I don't feel they're going to come in tired. I don't think they're going to come in, not ready to do this again. I just think that, City, I don't know what, at some point, surely their energy dips a point or two. And, this, I feel, that, I don't know. I just feel as, oh my God, here we go with this. This has to be perfect immediately.
Yeah.
And can't dip it any way. You're going, Christ, are we ready to do all of this again?
Yeah, we're just going to go through it for another 38 games and, seek perfection and try and win as many points as we can. You mentioned Man City. I mean, have you been paying much attention to what's been going on elsewhere? Other opposition clubs like Chelsea buying literally every footballer on the planet?
Yes, they seem to continue that. It's like they've not in any way learned from that, and they're shifting more things on. And they've extended your man's contract to 2033 now, Palmer.
Yeah.
So Palmer's now has 9 years left in his contract. So
it's like Shawshank Redemption or something. He's going to be
essentially, yeah. He's failed his parole, and they're extending his time by another 2 years, like whatever. But it's at least at that point you go, well, surely within those 9 years they'll buy somebody else. You're going to buy somebody else, aren't you? You're going to buy. I mean, in the 9 years, I'm here for another decade. Maybe it won't just be me doing that entire thing, like whatever. But there's a decision of like, well, we got him down. That's cool. Let's shift out Gallagher and do all this. I don't know. I'm still part of me would like a headline centre forward. I still. There was still whispering through WhatsApp that we're definitely going to buy Tony, like whatever, which I presume we're not going to. But but there's some, while it's all been really, really good, I can't help being shiny thing. I'd like a shiny thing. I'd like the, and that would be amazing. I know we're not in like a new signing thing. It's not like that used to be. But
no, a literal new signing is what you're looking for.
Literally, that would be lovely, like with but also a new attacking signing is just it's just nice. It's just it's a toy. It's a thing that keeps us all excited. Oh, are we going to watch the videos of it? I haven't been searching out Calafiori YouTube videos because I presume they're not as, do you remember the Arshavin one? He was the first ever. Obviously, Arshavin is amazing in many ways, but there was an Arshavin video of him in St. Petersburg. And one of them has an assist where he had fallen over and from a lying position managed to play a through ball.
Set to some like cheesy German techno track.
Totally. Yeah. It was Scooter. Going, as he tripped over, but still managed then while on the ground to hike the ball over to his mate who scored like the air. And you get like, it's impossible not to have your brain go, the players around them aren't very good. Do not get excited. The players around them are. This is the third division of the Brazilian league. Do not get excited by the fact that you're watching a video of Junior A, as you say, like and don't get thrilled by the player.
I'll tell you a secret. That is actually how Edu is currently scouting on new signings, YouTube compilations, which is the cheesiest, which is the craziest, and that's going to be our attacking signing. Before I let you go, until a signing comes in, who are you most excited about watching next season? Which player in particular is someone you're really looking forward to?
Well, we've had the summer off from seeing. Obviously, we saw the British lads playing. Martinelli, I have to say. I think Martinelli has, and then what happened will be Trossard. But Martinelli, I think, had a dip last year, which is fine, which happens this grand. I think he's going to come back strong. So I'm looking to seeing him scooting in. I'm looking to seeing your man, and also he's got support on his wing now, which he didn't really have. It was a bit intermittent. So I think that's going to be interesting. To see him go, because I think he's something to prove. And I think that's a thing. So he'll, Odegaard knocks it to him, Martinelli cuts behind, centres it, then the as yet undefined full forward comes in and full forward, sorry, right? It's still GA mode.
Getting your Gaelic games in here as well. All right.
We'll buy Clifford from Kerry, and we'll stick him up the front like
He's got good hands.
Or the Kai Havertz we briefly saw, the Kai Havertz approach play from Germany, yet not the Kai Havertz finishing, but the Kai Havertz, that drag and turn, which set him loose in 40 yards of space. And we're just watching going, this is the most Kai Havertz, all of this is the most Kai Havertz thing that's ever happened in history. He's on the greatest drag and turn in the world and then failed the dink. Yes. And that... I don't know, can you train that? Can you train finishing? Is that a thing that...
I mean, yes. I mean...
But I know, I suppose you can... But we just, we've told... we sat and said to him, hey, try to put it in, put it to the side of the keeper, but not that far to the side of the keeper.
Yeah, I guess some players are just instinctively better finishers than others, and he is one of those who, I don't know. I feel like if he doesn't have too much time to think, it tends to work out better for him. But if you put him through on goal where he's going, well, will I dink it? Will I slot it? Will I bash it? Will I? That's the thing.
Totally.
So maybe it's just about the mental side of it. We just need to steal his wallet and his watch and his phone to get him thinking. Be more decisive. That's how you do it.
But did they give them back their stuff, or is it that they say, I still have your watch, and we'll see how the first game goes, and maybe you get it back, and then that's what's in his head, like
6 goals by the end of October, or else. Yeah,
I mean, I found when I was playing, obviously the highest level of playing underage Gaelic football, and I was sometimes play full forward, which is the equivalent of the number 9, and at that level, keeper would occasionally just kick the ball straight to you, like 40 yards, wouldn't connect, like whatever. Yeah. And it was, the whole universe was like just you, and suddenly it's like, what? Too many options. What am I to do with this? Like, do I kick it straight back, or do I run in and like, too much. So I get it, but I just presume that at that level they don't. They have a thing in their head. They're all rather than it's kind of appealing in that they're still like us. There was a mode I remember once in FIFA, one of the video games, where you played as a player, and and when you got the ball, the view would immediately shrink down to you and the ball. In a way that this is how I presume playing football at the highest level feels. If you're the kind of person who went into programming, the video games, because I remember when I got the ball, I would go, oh, Jesus, just the ball. Oh, don't lose the ball. I wasn't looking up and going, what shall I do with the ball? It was just, I briefly have the ball now. This is like at school. I briefly have the ball now. Oh God, everything is happening. Please leave me alone with the ball. I cannot think of anything other than just this ball. I'm not looking up. But you presume professionals don't play like that.
I would presume not. But maybe Kai Havertz has just got a little too much Dara O'Brien in him. Maybe that's what,
I've always said that. I've always said that.
He's like the German Snoop Dogg, as far as I know.
Yeah. There is an international union of Snoops, and that we often. And look, we have our faults. But we're there. We're always there. We're always there. That's the one thing you can rely on us to be. They're always in attendance.
All right.
Yeah. So.
Well, let's hope he can get his shooting boots on this season and the season ahead. We better leave it there. Dara, thank you so much as always.
A pleasure, and it was a delight. And Jesus, are we doing this all again? I guess we are.
We are. Not only are we doing it all again, we've done it all again. And by that I mean the first Arsecast of a brand new season. For more on the Wolves game, please do join us over on Patreon. Tomorrow we will have our first preview podcast of the new season after Mikel Arteta's press conference, which takes place at about 1:30. We'll have it for you Friday afternoon. We'll look ahead to the game. We'll talk about the team selection. We'll talk about whatever bits and pieces of news there are and try and analyse how Arsenal are going to start the new season. So if you do want to join us, it's patreon.com/Arseblog. James and I will have an Arsecast extra for you on Monday. We're all hoping for a very goodly morning and 3 points to kick off the brand new season, so please do join us for that. For now, thank you so much for being here. Hope you enjoyed the show. Have a great weekend. Of course, dependent on what Arsenal do and what some other teams do. I'll have to go look and see what the other fixtures are. I haven't really paid any attention to that, so hopefully there might be an upset or two along the way which could kick off our season in a really good way. For now, though, take it easy and we will catch you on the next one. Until then, cheers. Bye-bye.